Chapter 26. A Bad Dream. July, and I'm still here at Chilagi. When the school term ended, many of the students went home for the summer. Half of our gang, in fact. Bear Meat, Skinny, Dirt Seller, and Grasshopper all went to help out their families on the little plots of land they have left. Allotments meted out when the Oklahoma reservations were broken up by the Curtis Act of 1898. I'd never heard about the Curtis Act before, and I sure as blazes did not hear a word about it in any of the classes taught at Chilagi. I learned the story from other Creek students, mostly Deacon, who knows the most about tribal history and genealogy and the acts of Congress that affected Okie Indians. The Curtis Act abolished the tribal governments and tribal courts in what was formerly supposed to be Indian territory forever. It divided, like cutting up a cow, what used to be communal lands between individual tribal members. No Indian was allowed more than 160 acres, which left 90 million acres, the greater part of Indian land, to be given to white settlers. As if that wasn't bad enough, Deacon said while sitting round the fire after a stomp dance. Every Indian had to pay taxes on their land for the first time, so a lot had their land taken for non-payment of taxes. We also now had the right to sell our land if we wanted, and white men were ready to buy it. Especially after the oil, Little Coon added. Deacon nodded. Black gold, white men called it. We call it the Black Curse. A lot of that oil was on Indian lands. Few of us did get rich, but not so many as you'd think. Much of the Indian oil land was stolen by white men who got Indians drunk and had them sign their names on bills of sale and then did not pay them a cent. Some white men married Indian girls just to get their land. But, I said, then I paused. Deacon looked at me and nodded again. I know what you're thinking to ask, Jaybird. Didn't people object once they sobered up? First of all, most courts will not take the word of an Indian over a white man. Second, if an Indian woman marries a white man, then ends up dead right after that, leaving everything to her husband, there's not a soul left to object or ask if that death was suspicious. I took a deep breath and shook my head. It all sounded like a bad dream. It made me understand even more why Pop wanted to escape from being an Indian, why he didn't want to raise me knowing about all this. I cannot say he was right, but I see now he was trying to spare me the pain. Bear Meat growled. Some of us still got land. No one going to take it from us. The firelight flickering over his determined face also made it possible for me to see the smile that came to Possum's lips. Bear Meat, Possum grinned, is the littlest one in his family. They're all bad men, even the women. Don't no one mess with the Chitto family. Since 2/3 of the whole student body left, it's been quieter here at Chilagi, though Possum, Little Coon, and Deacon are still here. While some of the school staff remained, quite a few others are gone, taking their once-a-year vacations. Now no one's perched atop the water tower with field glasses to observe our every movement. Rather than the usual schedule of drilling and classes, those of us left here now have different roles to play, mostly as laborers and farmhands. Whether school is in session or not, animals have to be fed, grass has to be cut, and crops need to be tended. Plus, there's all the upkeep on the many school buildings. Why am I still here? Well, for one, there's no home for me to return to. Not even 20 or 30 acres like the family farms that Grasshopper and Skinny and Bear Meat went back to for the summer. For another, a second letter came in June from Pop. It was not delivered to me in the mailroom, but by Superintendent Morrell himself, who called me to come to his office at noon. Mr. Blackbird, the superintendent told me, gesturing to me with a wave of his massive left hand. I have heard from your father. He held out the brown piece of paper on which I saw my father's familiar writing. It was not letter paper, but something heavier. A piece cut from a brown paper bag. The date on the top was a week after the letter I'd received. To Superintendent Morrell, from William Blackbird. Sir, I apologize for sending this on such rough paper. Here in our camp, writing materials are hard to come by, as is the time to send such missives as this. I am writing to request that you allow my son, Cal, to remain there at Chilagi Indian School during the summer months. He is a good worker, as I hope he has proven. I am sure he can be of use among the summer student helpers, and might even warrant a garden plot of his own. I am unable to return and collect him as soon as I had hoped. My own role as an officer and quartermaster in our bonus expeditionary force requires my continued presence. Our army of veterans of the Great War continues to grow, and we believe that our pleas for the payment of our bonus money will eventually be answered, though it may take till the ends of the summer. The papers have written well of us. We believe, with an election coming, that the President will see the wisdom of giving us our due. Please inform Cal on my behalf and tell him that I am proud of him. I held the paper in both hands and read it a second time, hearing my father's voice. Then I handed it back to the superintendent. "Does this sit well with you, Mr. Blackbird?" Morrell asked. As if I had any choice in the matter? So I did the only thing I could do. I nodded. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then I've been settling into my new role as a full-time farmhand. In addition to such things as grass cutting and whitewashing walls, I've been spending time in the stables. Mr. Adams has been teaching me how to work with the big Percheron horses. He also has detailed me to be the one most responsible for the feeding and currying of those retired cavalry mounts. I am clearly their favorite, Dakota in particular. The big horse starts whinnying whenever I am within half a mile of the stables. I have also been allotted a plot of my own to farm. Whatever I grow there can be sold, with funds from the sale going into my account. There are no academic classes, but I have been able to study on my own using books borrowed from the library. A big box of novels and textbooks discarded from a high school in Oklahoma City was donated in June to our so-called library, housed in that small room in the academic building. I was the first to get my hands on them. We do not have a proper librarian, but Mrs. Tighe suggested to the superintendent that I should be the one to go through the books and see they got shelved right. My favorites among them are no less than 10 novels by Sir Walter Scott and 4 by Robert Louis Stevenson. Possum, on my recommendation, is now working his way through Kidnapped. The one I'm reading right now, before sleeping, is Treasure Island. I read it 2 years ago, but it has even more meaning for me now. I guess what I like best about it is that while I'm reading it, I am not here at Chilagi. I'm off on that wild quest with Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver. For a time, deep in those pages, I'm not even worrying about Pop or missing him. For a time, there's nothing but pirates and buried treasure on my mind. I close my eyes and drift off into a dream where Jim, who looks a lot like Possum, and I are walking along an ocean beach. "No! Look out! No!" That shouting, near hysterical voice was so loud that it woke me up. I look around. I'm in my bed in the half-empty dorm room. The still-open copy of Stevenson's adventure tale is clutched in my right hand. Jim Hawkins isn't there, but I'm not alone. Possum and Little Coon are both staring down at me with worried faces. That tells me the one shouting was none other than yours truly. It pulled them out of their cots to the side of their crazy friend. "Jaybird," Possum says. "It was only a dream." I shake my head, half to try to come fully awake and half to deny what my friend just said. I close the book, swing my feet out of bed. I rub my eyes, which are wet with tears. "No," I say. "More than that." I look at my two friends. The full moon shining in through the window casts enough light for me to see the worried looks on their faces. And despite what Possum just said, he knows that a dream can be a lot more than a dream. He's the one whose aunt had medicine dreams that were just as precognitive as the visions of Cassandra in the Iliad. I know if I tell them what I just saw in my dream, that they'll take it serious. I know, partially from what I've learned about being Creek, and partially because a part of me has always known, that my dreams are connecting me to other people. People who've passed on, like Ms. Euler's husband who got gassed in France, and people still living. My dreams are of things that happened, even before I was alive on this earth. This dream was about the living. It wasn't just about something that was going to happen. It was more than that. It was about Pop. And in that vision I sort of was Pop, seeing through his eyes. It was night, and there was noise and confusion all around me and the other men who were marching forward. There were lights, bright spotlights being beamed on us. We were on a bridge, facing armed men. We were not armed ourselves, but we were not going to let them get past us. We kept marching toward them. "Get back! Stop, or we will fire!" That was what the man on the bullhorn was saying. "They won't shoot us," the man next to me shouted. "They won't never shoot us vets." And that was when the soldiers started firing. I felt the bullets entering my chest, and I was falling, dying, and woke up shouting, "No!" Possum and Little Coon are still by my cot looking at me. I'm amazed it's only them. I was hollering as loud as a blue tick hound on the trail of a raccoon. But as I raise my head and look around the room, all I can see in the cots that hold other students here for the summer are sleeping bodies. Possum smiles. "Yep, Jaybird. They are all still recumbent," using the word I taught him yesterday out of my Webster's. "That yell of yours was meant just for us, I suppose. Nobody else was supposed to hear it, so they didn't." If he had said that 2 months ago, I would have thought he was nuts. But not now. I just nod my head. Then I realize someone is missing. Why isn't Deacon, whose bed is just past Little Coon's, also here by my cot? I stand up and peer in that direction. It looks as if there's a body in Deacon's bed. But then again, it looks as if the cots of my 2 other friends are also not empty. I walk over to Deacon's bed, pull back the covers. He's not in it. What it holds is a bedroll, like the ones in Little Coon's and Possum's cots, like the one they are fixing in mine. "Put on your sneakers, Jaybird," Little Coon says. "Deacon woke up a good 2 hours before you started yelling." "Yep," Possum nods. "Seems he had one of them premonitions, too." Little Coon nods. "Said the time had come for us to do something you needed done. Told us to wait till you woke up and then take you to our camp. That's where he is, getting things ready."